The rain poured relentlessly on the alien planet, but inside a remote expedition tent, an even bigger storm was brewing. Jaden Hill, a seasoned xenobiologist, never expected to meet her, an otherworldly woman with glowing green skin and amber eyes. What started as a simple request for warmth soon spirals into something far more dangerous. As a mysterious alien evaluator, Lyra isn't just studying humanity. She's fallen for Jaden, and the bond between them threatens to unravel everything. With the Galactic Council closing in, their connection becomes a weapon they can't control. Will they fight for their love, or will it tear them apart? In a world where emotions are forbidden, one encounter may change the galaxy forever. Stay tuned to see if Jaden and Lyra can escape the Council's grasp and rewrite the future of intergalactic relations. This is just the beginning. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. The rain pelted down relentlessly on Jaden Hill's expedition tent. Each droplet fell with the precision of a tiny percussion instrument, joining nature's symphony of discomfort. Jaden sat beneath the makeshift shelter he'd built from local branches and leaves, sipping from his thermos, the hot coffee offering only a brief respite from the chilly damp air. The alien forest around him hummed with strange sounds, unlike anything he had encountered before, making it both thrilling and unnerving. He had been alone on many planets, but Ravon 8 felt different. The atmosphere was eerily calm, yet there was an underlying tension, like the forest itself was watching him. Jaden was an interstellar explorer and xenobiologist for the Terran Scientific Corps. He had traveled across the galaxy to study strange and uncharted worlds, often spending months in isolation, far away from the comforts of civilization. His work was important, but it was also lonely. This mission, though, had been different. Ravon 8 had shown promising results. Its atmosphere was unexpectedly Earth-like, and the local flora exhibited extraordinary properties. The planet could be a potential candidate for future colonization, and that thought alone kept Jaden pushing forward. He adjusted the beige khaki expedition gear he wore, designed to withstand the harshest of conditions, and glanced around the camp. The rain had been falling for hours now, and it didn't show any sign of stopping. His brown hair was slightly damp from the drizzle, and his beard, carefully groomed even in the wilderness, caught droplets of water that fell from the shelter above him. He had made his peace with being alone, but tonight something felt different. There was an unease in the air that even his seasoned instincts couldn't shake. As he sat there, the crackling of the fire breaking the silence, something caught his attention from the tree line. His hand instinctively reached for the pulse, pistol at his hip, a habit formed from years of field experience, but he stopped himself. It was probably just an animal, though the noises surrounding him felt off. Jaden relaxed slightly but kept his eyes fixed on the rustling in the distance. The sound drew closer, and his heart began to race. His mind told him to stay calm, but his instincts screamed that something or someone was out there. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the usual hum of life falling quiet. He stood slowly, his pulse quickening as the rustling intensified. And then, out of the darkness, she appeared. A humanoid figure stepped into the dim light cast by the fire. Jaden froze. The first thing he noticed was her skin, pale green, almost glowing in the firelight, casting an eerie, ethereal glow that made her seem otherworldly. She moved with the grace of a predator, her light-colored hair cascading in gentle waves down her back. She wore a form-fitting black leather outfit, which made little sense given the weather, but somehow it suited her. It was as if she were a creature of another world entirely, her presence both alien and oddly mesmerizing. Jaden blinked, momentarily stunned. "Holy," he muttered under his breath. This was no animal. The woman, her amber eyes fixed on him, stepped forward. She moved with elegance, as if the rain and the damp earth didn't touch her. Her voice when she spoke was like music, a melodic, calming tone that caught Jaden off guard. "You're fire," she said in perfect English. "It's warm." Jaden's mind was racing, his scientific training kicking in, but his body still couldn't quite catch up. His heart thudded in his chest. "You speak English?" he asked, his voice sounding far less composed than he intended. A slight smile played on her lips, and for a moment, Jaden could have sworn he saw something else in her expression, something that almost seemed like amusement. "We've been studying your kind for some time," she said. "May I?" She gestured toward the fire. Jaden was at a loss for words, but his instincts were still telling him to stay calm. He stepped aside, making room for her under the shelter. She sat down gracefully, her skin glinting like marble in the firelight. As she settled next to him, Jaden found himself stealing glances at her, trying to piece together what he was seeing. She was too beautiful, too otherworldly to be real, and yet she was sitting there mere inches from him. "I'm Jaden Hill, xenobiologist with the Terran Scientific Corp," he said, still trying to maintain his professionalism. "And you are?" "I am Lyra," she said, her voice smooth and soft, "an evaluator for the Galactic Council." Jaden's heart skipped a beat. An evaluator? He had heard of them. The Galactic Council sent evaluators to study emerging species to assess their readiness for galactic integration. But this was something different. Something about Lyra's presence felt personal. She sat in silence for a moment, staring into the flames. Jaden couldn't help but study her. Her pale green skin had subtle markings, patterns that seemed to shift and change with the flicker of the fire. Her eyes, a striking amber, never left the flames, yet there was something intense in the way she carried herself. Jaden had spent years studying alien life forms, but nothing he'd ever encountered had prepared him for this. "You're not dressed for this weather," Jaden observed, trying to steer the conversation back to something less unsettling. "This storm has been going on for hours." Lyra's eyes flickered to him, and he noticed a faint spark of something almost like a challenge before she spoke. "Perhaps not, but I find that discomfort can lead to interesting situations." Jaden swallowed hard. Was she? No, it couldn't be. His professional mind tried to push aside the thoughts racing through his head. This was a scientific encounter after all, but Lyra's presence, her allure, made it hard to concentrate. "Your tent looks much warmer than my current accommodations," she continued, her voice carrying a subtle note of invitation. Jaden's breath caught in his throat. Could it be? Was she suggesting, "Are you asking to stay the night?" He managed to say, his voice tight. Lyra's gaze softened, but there was something mischievous in her eyes. "Would that be inappropriate?" "No," Jaden said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "I mean, it would be cruel to leave you out in this weather. I have spare blankets." He forced himself to keep his tone professional, but it was becoming harder by the second. Lyra stood with an elegant fluidity that took Jaden's breath away. "Shall we?" As she moved toward the tent, Jaden couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter, this alien visitor, was going to be the most interesting and potentially the most dangerous experience of his life. Inside the tent, the air felt charged with unspoken tension. The night was just beginning, and Jaden had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. Nothing on Ravon 8 would ever be the same again. The air inside Jaden's tent was thick, filled with a strange, palpable tension that neither of them acknowledged directly. Lyra settled herself onto one of the sleeping bags, the soft glow of her skin casting an ethereal light that made the tent feel smaller, more intimate. Jaden busied himself with adjusting the blankets and rearranging his equipment, his movements deliberate and slow, trying to maintain some semblance of control over the situation, but nothing felt controlled. Not anymore. As Jaden moved around, his eyes kept drifting to Lyra, who sat cross-legged, watching him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Her amber eyes never wavered, and it felt as though she was studying him just as intently as he studied the alien life forms he encountered in his work. He wasn't sure if she was simply curious about him, or if there was something deeper, something more intimate, lurking beneath her calm exterior. Jaden cleared his throat. "I must admit this is, unusual," he said, trying to keep his tone neutral. Lyra tilted her head slightly, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "You didn't expect to find me here, did you?" she said, her voice light, almost teasing. "No," Jaden replied honestly, his mind still trying to wrap around the strange events of the past few hours. "I certainly didn't expect this kind of encounter." Lyra's eyes flickered with something unreadable, and she shifted slightly, the faint shimmer of her skin reflecting the low light in the tent. "You must be wondering why I'm here, why I sought you out. It's not just to escape the rain, Jaden." Her words hung in the air, laden with meaning, and Jaden's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a casual visit from an alien traveler. There was something far more significant at play. He set down the thermos, his curiosity piqued. "Then, why? What is it you want from me?" Lyra leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping into a more serious tone. "I am an evaluator for the Galactic Council, Jaden. My mission is to observe and assess emerging species, to determine their potential for integration into the galactic community." She paused, studying his face closely, as if looking for some reaction. "And you, humans, are fascinating." Jaden furrowed his brow, his mind racing with implications. "So, this is all just part of your mission? You're studying us, evaluating our species for the Council?" Lyra nodded, but there was a softness in her expression that made Jaden question her true intentions. "Yes, that is part of it," she said, "but not the whole truth." Her eyes softened as she added, "The truth is I've been watching humanity for some time now, and I've come to realize something that wasn't part of my mission." Jaden's heart beat faster, the words hanging in the air, thick with meaning. "What is it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Her gaze never left his, and for a moment Jaden could swear she wasn't just talking to him. She was feeling him, sensing something within him. "It's not just your intellect that makes you interesting, Jaden. It's your capacity for connection, for raw, unfiltered emotion." She paused as though weighing her words carefully. "You see, my people, the Velicians have long abandoned those emotions. In our pursuit of logical progression, we've lost something vital, something that until now I didn't realize we had lost." Jaden was stunned. He had heard rumors of distant species that had outgrown emotions in favor of logic and order, but hearing it from Lyra herself made it all feel far more real. "You've lost emotion?" he asked, trying to process the revelation. "But you're still capable of feeling, right?" Lyra smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. "In a way, yes. We feel, of course we feel, but it's controlled, measured. What we have now is more of an echo of the passion you humans possess, and that's why I'm here, to evaluate you." She paused again, and her voice softened, almost as if she were speaking to herself. But somewhere along the way, this evaluation turned into something else, something personal. Jaden's mind raced. He felt the weight of her words sinking in, but his curiosity was pushing him forward, drawing him in. "What do you mean? What has this turned into?" Lyra's expression softened further, and for a moment she looked almost vulnerable. "What I mean is that I'm not just here to observe you, Jaden. I'm here because of you, because of what you represent. The emotional depth of your species, it's intoxicating. I didn't expect to be affected like this, but I am. And that's why I'm afraid of what this might mean, what it might do to my mission." Jaden felt a wave of conflicting emotions rush through him. His logical mind screamed that this was just part of her evaluation, just another aspect of her assignment. But there was something in her eyes, something in her presence that made it hard to dismiss. "So, you're telling me this is personal?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Yes," Lyra whispered, her eyes never leaving his. "I didn't expect to form a bond with you, but I already have. And now I'm faced with a choice, whether to continue my mission and suppress what I feel, or to let go and allow myself to experience something I never thought possible." The weight of her words hung heavily in the air. Jaden felt an undeniable pull toward her, a magnetic force that was both thrilling and terrifying. He was supposed to be the calm, rational scientist. He had spent years studying alien species, cataloging their behavior, their biology. But this was something he hadn't prepared for. "You're saying you're attracted to me?" he asked, unable to hide the surprise in his voice. Lyra gave him a soft smile, the kind of smile that spoke of both warmth and sorrow. "I'm saying that I'm feeling something for you, something I didn't expect. And I don't know how to handle it, Jaden. I don't know what it means for my mission, for us." Jaden took a deep breath, his mind racing with possibilities. "And if we continue this connection, what happens then?" Lyra's gaze turned serious and she leaned in closer, her breath warm against his skin. "That depends on you, Jaden. If you're willing to embrace what's between us, this connection, then everything changes, for both of us. But if you choose to pull away, to dismiss this as nothing more than a professional encounter, I'll understand. But know this, I won't forget." For the first time, Jaden felt the weight of his decision pressing on him, heavier than any scientific discovery he had ever made. This wasn't just about studying an alien species. This was about him, about the raw, unfiltered emotions that humans like him were capable of. And for the first time, he wasn't sure what was the right choice. The night stretched on, filled with unspoken words and the quiet tension between them. Outside, the rain continued to fall, the sound now a distant murmur, but inside the tent, a different kind of storm was beginning to brew. And Jaden knew, no matter which choice he made, it would change the course of his life forever. The quiet hum of the tent filled the space as Jaden and Lyra sat in a tense silence, the weight of their conversation hanging in the air. Outside, the rain continued to beat down, relentless and steady. The storm was nothing compared to the emotional storm brewing inside Jaden. He had always prided himself on his ability to remain detached, to observe and analyze without letting his feelings cloud his judgment. But tonight everything felt different. He could feel the connection between him and Lyra growing stronger, a magnetic force that pulled at the very core of his being. And despite his best efforts, he couldn't ignore it. Her presence was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Her warmth, the way her skin seemed to shimmer in the dim light of the tent, the way her eyes, those haunting amber eyes, pierced through him. Everything about her was foreign, and yet it felt right. Jaden cleared his throat, trying to push aside the confusion that was slowly engulfing him. "Lyra, He paused, unsure of how to continue. "I don't know what to say. I wasn't prepared. For this. For you." Lyra's expression softened and she shifted slightly, her glowing skin casting an ethereal light around the tent. "I understand," she said, her voice gentle, almost soothing. "I didn't expect to be so affected by this either. But it's happening, Jaden. It's real." She hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her next words. "And I need you to understand something. I wasn't just sent here to study your species. I was sent here to understand you, to understand humanity." Jaden felt a knot form in his stomach. "What do you mean?" His voice was barely above a whisper. Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time since their encounter began, Jaden saw something vulnerable in her gaze. "I was sent to observe your species' emotional capacity. The Galactic Council has been watching humanity for some time now. But what I've discovered, what I've felt, hasn't been about observation. It's been about connection." She paused, her voice growing softer. "What we have is something beyond my mission, Jaden. I'm not supposed to feel this way, but I do, and I can't ignore it." Jaden's heart raced as her words sank in. He had always known that emotions were powerful, but this was something entirely new. This wasn't just about the scientific study of alien life. This was about two beings from vastly different worlds coming together in a way that defied logic. And the more Jaden tried to resist, the more he realized that his heart was pulling him in the same direction as Lyra. "What does this mean for you?" Jaden asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. Lyra stood up and moved toward the small window of the tent, her figure illuminated by the faint glow of her skin. She looked out into the rain-soaked forest, her gaze distant as if searching for answers in the storm. It means I'm torn between my duty and what I've come to feel, she said, her voice barely audible. The council has its rules, its protocols, but everything I've learned from you, from humanity, tells me those rules don't have all the answers. I've been trained to suppress my emotions, to remain detached, but being with you, being here, it's changing me. Jaden's heart clenched as he watched her. Her words were raw, vulnerable, and full of conflict. She was no longer just the alien evaluator he had assumed her to be. She was someone caught between her duty to the Galactic Council and the powerful bond that had formed between them. You're not just an evaluator anymore, are you? Jaden asked, his voice low. Lyra turned back to face him, her eyes reflecting a mix of uncertainty and something else, something deeper. No, she admitted, her voice shaky. I'm not. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound in the Iowa tent was the steady rhythm of the rain as it fell on the roof. Jaden's mind raced, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. This wasn't just a scientific encounter anymore. This was something far more complicated, far more dangerous. Jaden took a step toward Lyra, his heart pounding in his chest. So what happens now? Lyra's gaze softened, and she took a deep breath. That's what I don't know. I've been sent here to observe, to evaluate. But the more time I spend with you, the more I realize that I don't want to just observe anymore. I want to feel. I want to understand what it means to be human, to experience the emotions that you so freely express. She paused as if gathering her thoughts. But there's a problem. The council isn't going to accept this. They won't accept me breaking protocol, and if they find out what's happened between us, they'll come for me. Jaden's heart sank. He had known that things were moving too quickly, that the connection between them was growing stronger by the minute, but he hadn't considered the consequences. What are you saying? He asked, his voice thick with concern. Lyra walked toward him, her footsteps light but purposeful. She placed a hand on his arm, her touch sending a wave of warmth through his body. I'm saying that I've compromised my mission, she whispered, and if the council finds out, they'll come for me. They'll take me away. They'll terminate the mission, and they'll erase everything we've shared. Jaden's mind was spinning. He couldn't let that happen. He couldn't let her be taken away. Not after everything they had shared, not after the bond that had formed between them. He looked into her eyes, feeling the weight of her fear and uncertainty. Then we won't let them take you, Jaden said firmly, his voice filled with determination. We'll fight this. We'll make them see what we've discovered, what we have. We'll show them that emotion doesn't make us weak. It makes us stronger. And we won't let anyone take that from us. Lyra's eyes softened with a mixture of gratitude and fear. You're willing to risk everything for me? Jaden nodded, his resolve hardening. For us, for what we've found together. I won't let them destroy what we have. The tension in the air shifted, the quiet storm of emotions inside the tent now a force of its own. As Jaden and Lyra stood together, their bond growing stronger by the minute, the sound of the rain outside seemed distant and irrelevant. They were no longer just a xenobiologist and an evaluator. They were two beings from different worlds, bound by something deeper than either of them could fully understand. But whatever happened next, Jaden knew one thing for certain. They would face it together. And together, they would change everything. The future of humanity, of Lyra's people, and the fate of their love was in their hands now. The air inside the tent felt electric, charged with an energy neither of them could ignore. The connection between Jaden and Lyra had deepened in ways neither had anticipated. What had begun as a professional encounter, a simple study of alien life, had transformed into something far more profound, far more dangerous. Now they stood at the precipice of an uncertain future, with the Galactic Council's shadow looming over them. Jaden watched Lyra as she stood by the tent's entrance, her pale green skin glowing softly in the dim light. There was something about her presence that was both calming and unnerving, Her amber eyes, usually so composed, now revealed an intensity that mirrored his own. The vulnerability in her expression pulled at something deep inside him. "I didn't expect this," Jaden said softly, taking a step toward her. "I never imagined that I'd be here in this situation with you." Lyra turned toward him, her eyes locking with his. "I didn't expect this either, Jaden. But sometimes the most unexpected things are the ones that change us forever." He could feel the weight of her words settling around them. The Galactic Council had always prided itself on its strict control over emotions, its belief that emotional detachment was the key to survival in the vast and different universe. But what they had discovered, what they had found, was something far more powerful. They had found connection. They had found love not in the way the Council would have defined it, but in a way that transcended species and boundaries. Jaden moved closer to her, the space between them growing smaller with every step. "But what if the Council finds out? What if they come for you?" His voice was thick with concern. He couldn't shake the thought of losing her. Losing this, whatever this was. Lyra's gaze softened, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "They will come for me, Jaden, I know that. The Council doesn't allow for this kind of emotional or contamination. They'll see what we have as a threat. They'll want to terminate my mission, and they won't hesitate to remove me from this planet." The weight of her words felt like a physical blow, but Jaden stood tall, refusing to let fear take hold. "We won't let that happen," he said, his voice steady. "I'll protect you. We'll fight them, together." Lyra's lips parted slightly, and for a moment Jaden thought he saw something flicker in her expression. Hope, perhaps, or something deeper. "Together?" she asked quietly. Jaden nodded, taking her hand in his. "We've already defied the odds, Lyra. We've already created something that the Council can't understand. We're not just some fleeting connection, some passing moment. What we have is real, and I'm not going to let anyone take it from us." Lyra's eyes shimmered, a soft pulse of emotion flowing through their bond. She stepped closer to him, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw as though committing the feeling of his skin to memory. "You're right," she whispered. "We've already made something beautiful, but the question is, Jaden, are we strong enough to protect it?" Jaden didn't hesitate. "We are. We'll show the Council that emotions, real raw emotions, are what make us strong, not weak." His voice was firm now, carrying the conviction of someone who knew the path ahead would be difficult, but also knew it was worth the fight. "We'll make them see that connection is the key to survival. Not cold logic, not detachment, love. That's what matters." Lyra's hand lingered on his face for a moment longer before she stepped back, her expression turning serious. "The Council won't see it that way, Jaden. They don't believe in the power of emotions. They believe in control, in suppression. And that's why they won't stop until they've erased everything we've built." She paused, her eyes searching his face. "But I'm not afraid anymore." Jaden's heart swelled at her words, and he could see the fire in her eyes, the same fire he felt burning inside himself. Together they were stronger than anything the Council could throw at them. "Then we fight," he said simply. "We fight for this. For us." Lyra nodded, a small but determined smile forming on her lips. "For us." But as they stood there, facing each other in the dimly lit tent, the sound of something far more ominous reached their ears. The quiet hum of the rain was suddenly overshadowed by a deep, rumbling noise, distant, but, growing closer, Jaden's heart skipped a beat as the sound intensified, a low, mechanical whirring that seemed to vibrate the very air around them. "They're here," Lyra whispered, her voice tight with fear. Jaden's eyes darted toward the entrance of the tent. The storm outside seemed to amplify the noise, making it harder to pinpoint its source, but there was no mistaking it now. The Council's retrieval ships had arrived. "They've found us," Jaden said, his voice thick with tension. "We don't have much time." Lyra's gaze flickered toward the sky as if she could see the ships even through the thick canopy of the alien forest. Her skin shimmered with the patterns of anxiety. but there was a steely determination in her eyes. We need to leave. Now. Jaden moved quickly, grabbing his research equipment and securing it in his pack. He could feel Lyra's presence behind him, steady and calm, her emotions now syncing with his own. Together they had become something more than just two people caught in a crisis. They had become a unit, a bond that no force in the galaxy could break. The retrieval ships were closing in fast. Jaden's mind raced with options, but one thought stood out above the rest. We need to get to my research station. It's 3 kilometers away, but we can use the terrain to our advantage. We can hide, regroup, and figure out our next move. Lyra nodded, her amber eyes glowing with the intensity of their shared purpose. We'll make it, she said, her voice unwavering. We'll make them see. They'll have to. The sound of the ships grew louder, the hum of their engines almost deafening as they descended through the alien atmosphere. Jaden and Lyra moved in sync, slipping out of the tent and into the dark, rain-soaked forest. The trees loomed overhead like silent sentinels, their leaves rustling in the wind. But Jaden's mind was focused solely on one thing: getting to the research station, getting to safety. As they moved through the forest, Lyra's skin pulsed, with light illuminating the path ahead. Jaden's eyes never left her, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. Every step they took brought them closer to the unknown, to a future they had never imagined. But they were no longer just two strangers on a strange planet. They were something more. They were a force, united by their bond, driven by their love, and determined to fight for their future, no matter what it took. And as the retrieval ships drew closer, Jaden knew one thing for sure: they would not go down without a fight.